For more than 30 years, it was the largest and heaviest aircraft that had ever flown. There was only one of it in the entire world, a single machine so enormous that airports shut down just to make room for it, and crowds would gather along the fences wherever it landed. Faces turned upward just to watch it pass overhead. It had taken decades of vision and labor to bring into being. And then, over the course of a single day, it was gone. What took a generation to create was lost in an afternoon, and to this day, no one is certain the world will ever see its equal again. This is the story of a machine whose very name meant dream, and the hard lesson in how fragile even our greatest creations truly are. Built by people who believed it could be done. To understand why this aircraft was so beloved, you have to understand why it was built in the first place. In the final decades of the last century, a great power was reaching for space, and it needed to move something extraordinary. It was building a reusable spacecraft, an orbiter, and it needed a way to carry that orbiter and its enormous rocket components across thousands of miles, from the factories to the launch site. Trucks could not do it. Trains could not do it. The only answer was to build an aircraft larger than anything that had ever left the ground. So the engineers took their largest existing cargo plane, already a giant in its own right, and they made it bigger still. They stretched the body, they widened the wings until the span reached nearly the length of a football field. They added engines until there were 6 of them roaring in a row, and wheels until there were dozens, so the impossible weight could roll along a runway without breaking through it. When it was finished, it could lift more than a fully loaded jumbo jet and still have power to spare. It carried the spacecraft on its back, mounted on top like a whale carrying a smaller creature across the ocean of the sky. Now, before this story goes on, hold a question in your mind. We tend to believe that our greatest achievements are permanent, that once humanity has done a thing, that knowledge is ours forever. But is that actually true? When something like this is lost, can we simply build it again the way we build another car or another house? Or is it possible that some things, once gone, are gone in a way we do not like to admit? Hold that thought, because this story tests it directly. For a while, the great machine seemed almost forgotten. When the power that built it broke apart and the space program it served was canceled, the giant was quietly parked and left idle for years, too expensive to fly, too specialized to sell. It might have ended there, gathering dust, a relic of an ambition that no longer existed. But there was still nothing else on Earth that could do what it could do. And so, near the turn of the century, it was refurbished and given an entirely new life, carrying the heaviest and most awkward cargo in the world that no other aircraft could touch. Power generators the size of houses, locomotives, turbine blades longer than a tennis court. And it became something more than a machine. It became a symbol, a source of pride for the nation that now owned and operated it. Enthusiasts tracked its every flight from across the globe. When disaster struck somewhere in the world, this aircraft was often the one that carried in the relief supplies, the aid, the equipment too large for anything else. During a global health crisis, it flew masks and medical gear between continents. It was, by then, far more than the sum of its parts. It was a living legend with a single tail number, and the whole aviation world loved it. Built by people who believed it could be done, and cherished by millions who never met them. Earlier, I asked whether the things we make are truly permanent. Here is where that question stops being abstract. Because in the opening days of a war, the airfield that was home to this one-of-a-kind aircraft became a place of conflict, and the machine, the only one of its kind on the planet, was caught in the middle of it. It could not simply fly away to safety. At that moment, one of its 6 engines had been removed for routine maintenance. The giant that had crossed oceans and carried the weight of spacecraft sat grounded, unable to lift itself even once more, exactly when it needed to most. Over the course of the fighting, the hangar that sheltered it was struck, and a fire took hold. When the smoke finally cleared and people were able to reach the site, the truth was undeniable. The largest aircraft ever to fly, the beloved giant that had taken decades in a fallen empire's ambition to create, lay broken beyond saving. The dream, as one heartbroken message put it in the days after, does not burn. But the aircraft that carried the name had. And here we arrive at the hardest part of the story, the part that should give all of us pause. Surely you might think we can simply build another. The plans exist. And in fact, a second airframe was begun long ago and still sits, unfinished, perhaps 70% complete, waiting in a factory. But the estimates to finish it and replace what was lost run into billions over many years and depend on a piece that has not yet come. The people who first built the giant have scattered across time. The factories, the suppliers, the exact web of skill and industry that made it possible no longer exist in the same form. A blueprint, it turns out, is not the same as the ability to build. Knowledge lives in hands and workshops and working lifetimes. And when those disperse, even a perfect drawing cannot fully bring them back. Earlier, I asked if some things, once gone, are truly gone. If you have been turning that over, tell me where you have landed, because reasonable people disagree. Some are certain the giant will fly again. That determination and money will finish what was started. Others quietly fear that the moment for a machine like this has passed, and that we are looking at the empty space where a legend used to be. Tell me which you believe, and why. What lingers is not just the loss of an aircraft. It is the reminder buried inside it. We imagine our greatest works are immortal, that progress only ever moves forward. But the largest thing we ever flew was fragile in the end, dependent on peace and care and an unbroken chain of human skill to keep it in the sky. It was, at its heart, a dream given metal form, and it reminds us that dreams, however vast, still have to be protected, or they can vanish in an afternoon. It was built by people who believed it could be done, and that's worth remembering. If stories like this one stay with you, subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week we bring one more lost machine back to life and tell you the story the history books left out.